everybody. So nice to be here with you again this month. Happy New Year. Happy 2023. Here we go. So this month, what I want to talk about with you is more in depth about the subconscious mind and what it does, but more importantly, how illness equals communication. And we're going to pull it all apart and put it back together like we normally do if you've been watching my segments for a while. So how does this all work? Let's talk about the manifestation of your beliefs and what that actually means in your body. So the subconscious mind has access to, it governs over your body, right? That's what it has access to. And it creates, because it is always listening, it creates dominant beliefs to keep you safe, to move you towards pleasure and away from pain. It's constantly listening. It's learning through repetition. Once it learns, it's got it. Just like when you learned how to ride a bike. If you've ever had a time where you've been driving home and you don't quite even remember the drive, you just pull into your driveway and think, I don't even really remember driving home. Your subconscious mind drove you home. It knows the route. Its job is to keep you safe. It's always governing over your body. That includes a stress response as we shift into sympathetic drive if we perceive danger, as well as the opposite, shifting into parasympathetic drive. It controls all of these processes in your body that either make you healthy and well and vibrant and positive, or starts to break down, becoming unwell, becoming ailments. Now, why is that? How does that connect back to our beliefs about ourselves? Well, here's how. The subconscious mind will communicate with you when there is an incongruency within. So those dominant beliefs. So let's talk about negative beliefs, all right? Because most of us, when we're having a wonderful day, we don't sit down and journal and we don't try to figure out what's going on. We enjoy it. We expand into it. But when we're feeling negative, we start to look, we start to investigate, or we can feel overwhelmed. We can deny and put it aside. I just don't want to deal with it. Collectively, personally, this is just personal. This is not based on scientific evidence, but my personal feeling is that collectively, we are going through a grief collectively, right? We've never really come back from pandemic, lockdown, recession, inflation. There's just so much happening all the time that there's this collective grief under the surface, subconsciously, collectively, that we're starting to really feel in our bodies, and we have to manage ourselves well. So it's okay to feel it, but you got to investigate it. And here's the piece that we don't learn. We don't learn as children in school. We don't learn what our subconscious mind is and how important it is what we say yes to and what we say no to. That what we take in as authority becomes programming for us later. Now, if that programming is negative, it is not congruent with the non-linear version of ourselves, that expanded version of ourselves, right? We have this extension that's physical, that's living a linear life. We eat, we sleep, we watch the world, we take in data, we associate it against what our opinions and beliefs are that we've formed over decades, and this is all in linear time. But there's also that wiser, that higher self, that higher being, that access to all that is, that part of us that we all know, where intuition comes from, where that deep layer of unity consciousness that we believe in, that peace that just feels so true for us in our heart, that we can be thriving, that we can live a joyous, healthy, linear experience while staying connected to the non-linear truths of who we are. And science and religion have been debating that for centuries, but it's what's true for you. So let's take it back to the beginning. We have a negative emotion. That's the first knock from the subconscious mind. We have something that we're believing here that is not congruent with this non-linear version, and it knows who you truly are. Why? Because it stores all of your memories. Now, if you believe in reincarnation, if you believe in that karmic wheel, if you believe that we have more than one lifetime, then that's a lot of memories in your subconscious mind. And it knows every cell that formed you. It knows every experience that you've had. It knows who you truly are. And so when you start believing something limiting that is not congruent with who you truly are, you've got a conflict. And that conflict becomes a negative emotion. That's the first knock. If we don't do anything to resolve that inner conflict, if we just bury it, if we try to talk ourselves out of it consciously, if we get into a loop of it's somebody else's fault and they have to change their behavior, it's the world's fault, we have to change every system. Whatever you fill in the blanks with, that means you are not okay until a set of conditions are met, then we don't resolve the conflict. And it will escalate. So what happens? It continues. Second knock is physical response. We start to feel unwell. We start to feel off. We start to feel like we don't have that same energy flow. We start to feel maybe tired or foggy or just disinterested or sad. Fill in the blank. Second knock. We've got beliefs here that are compounding now that do not match the non-linear version of who you are, who I know you to be. What would you like me to do with this? It's a conversation, right? As your body is feeling what it's feeling, your emotions are feeling what you're feeling. This is a conversation you are having with your subconscious mind, but nobody taught you that. So what happens next if we don't resolve the conflict? Ailments. Progression to illness. So does that start to make sense that it would be logical that that's reversible? Of course. Because your subconscious mind knows every cell that created you. It knows how to heal you. But you have to be on board, right? Its job is to keep you safe. Your dominant beliefs are what governs it. So it's going to take those negative incidences from when you were younger or when you were bullied or when you were scared or when you experienced trauma, not making light of any of those things, but it's going to take all of those experiences and keep them dominant to keep you safe. But it's also going to let you know, hey, this is my job, I'm trying to keep you safe, but this is not who we really are. What do you want me to do with this? And it's going to keep projecting from that dominant negative belief, and you're going to continue to perceive the world that way, and how you are feeling and how you are thinking and feeling, emotional feeling, not conscious analyzing, emotional feeling, internal deep feelings, the ones that nobody really posts on socials. Because everybody's supposed to be perfect in the world. Everybody's supposed to be a stick figure with perfect skin and perfect muscles and never age and all the other nonsense that's out there has got people feeling like they can't truly share. It's not safe. And so we tend to hide, right? We don't want to tell others what's really going on with us because then somehow we feel like we failed. Or we should be somewhere else, right? Hear all the negative compounding going on in that. So the subconscious mind takes it, groups all that together and says, all right, then we can't go do that job or be around those people or be in a successful relationship or make enough money or do any of the things that make us happy in each of these quadrants that we have beliefs about them. I'm going to sabotage that because those cause pain. And so now we are living in this sabotage cycle while our bodies are continuing to break down, our emotions are continuing to spiral. But we have to really look at that and see, is that starting to ring a bell? Is that starting to make sense? So the subconscious mind is having a conversation with us. We have to learn how to communicate back. That was the beauty of hypnotherapy for me. Clinical hypnotherapy is being able to discern that blueprint that's different for everyone and work it backwards. Where did it come from? And how do we bring that back into alignment with that non-linear version of you? So really through hypnosis and through hypnotherapy, we navigate between these two worlds and viewpoints, garnering information that's specifically yours for what you've experienced in your life. And we reframe that linear landscape. We learn how to reprogram through the use of the skills and capabilities of the subconscious mind to reprogram the conscious mind so that we have a congruency between linear and non-linear. When we have that congruency, the subconscious mind collapses those negative beliefs. They become positive dominant. We project from that positive dominant. When that match takes place, this is the true nature of healing. This is what joy and happiness and self-love and self-worth and freedom look and feel like. So our body conditions are connected. They're an extension of our subconscious dominant beliefs. Because the subconscious has millions of memories, but it's the dominant beliefs that create our life experiences. So if you're not living and feeling how you want to be living, how you want to be feeling, that needs to be explored. And you can't get there if you're in a loop consciously of looking at the world and seeing what's wrong with it and pointing fingers and staying in that loop of judgment. You cannot push against that and somehow make your subconscious mind's terrain positive dominant. That's not a match. So I want to talk about the ability of finding that blueprint, how that actually works. How do we begin to decipher the messages? Because that is also quite fascinating. Things aren't random, not in my experience, not from the hundreds of clients that I have worked with thus far. It is always from the subconscious communication, that programming, a direct match to the beliefs. And so we can start to connect those dots. There's a blueprint there that I'm always listening for. So I want to share with you a client that I've been working with. I always, when I talk about a client, have been given express permission to do so. So I've been working with this client, and she has been experiencing these skin rashes that break out on her chest. They're quite painful at times. They cause body shivers. They ooze. So they're really, really uncomfortable. And she's a very wise lady. She has sought out a lot of alternative help, naturopathic help, and so forth. She's got her medical team chosen. And they've been doing all kinds of things with diet and elimination, looking at food allergies and intolerances, and she's done a lot of work there. So really putting in a lot of efforts. And yet, as much as there has been success, they have never fully resolved. So she came to me. And what we started to look at when we began our work together, because what we think consciously is very different from what is revealed when we're in hypnosis, from the subconscious terrain. And so we started to really see and discover that there was two major patterns running in her life, subconscious beliefs that became very aware through our work together. And the first was that she had recollections from childhood of just not getting it here, not belonging here, just a planetary internal knowing of, I just don't seem to fit into this world. I'm never really comfortable in my own skin. Hear it. Right? And how many times do we walk around saying things? This is what I want you to be thinking about. What do I say? And my subconscious mind is always listening. Even though it might be a slang or a joke, if there's a hint of truth underneath it and you're saying yes to it, everything you say yes to goes into your subconscious mind. I want you to be thinking about that, because we say things all the time about our well-being. We make jokes at our own expense. We can be a little edgy or judgy with people. And underneath that, there's a feeling, an internal feeling of lack or comparison. We can say things off the cuff. Oh, you know what? That's just killing me. Every time we do that, this job is killing me. Hear it, right? So that was the first pattern for her. I just don't even feel I don't remember ever feeling comfortable in my own skin, she said to me. Not thinking skin rashes, not making that correlation, just childhood experiences. And the second was about personal power. It was about food, not being able to make her own food choices. She didn't get to choose. She was overridden each time by one of her parents because she was young. Don't eat that, you have to eat that. Who remembers you can't leave the table until you finish what's on your plate? I remember that. And there were things that I just did not want to eat. My body was a strong no. And guess what? I don't tolerate them today. They are not on my food list. So your body knows something. And it's trying to help you. But when you're young, you're not the authority figure in the room. And it's no fault of parents because they're just doing what they think is best, what they learned, either how their parents projected onto them or how, society. Look at all the conversations about food pyramids now and how outdated they are and how unhealthy they are. And there's all this new availability, but you have technology now that makes it available to you at your fingertips. We didn't, our parents didn't. So you learn through a book, you learn through a daytime talk show, you learn through something that was taught in school, or how your parents, most of the time, how your parents raised you. So she was overridden. Her innate intelligence was overridden, which just compounded I'm just not comfortable. I don't know what to do. That turned into, I don't know what to do then. Tell me what to do because I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to displease you. Tell me what I need to do. And so at that point, we can start to connect the dots that these two pathways collided together. So the subconscious mind is saying, I've got a belief here, a linear belief that does not match the non-linear version of who you are. And it manifests perfectly as skin rashes. Comfortable in your own skin, food choices. What happens? The whole process that she goes through hypnotherapy to bring back the congruency between those two linear and non-linear versions of herself. You start to see the perfection and the brilliance of the subconscious mind using the skin rashes as the route back to her finding the truth about who she really is and her own ability to trust herself and her wisdom. And that feels like relief. That feels like truth. That feels like a whole new path forward. And as you understand what the subconscious mind is trying to teach you through your condition or illness, it then releases the dominant programming. It then you can release what's physically manifesting in your body because you've understood the message. Is that starting to make sense? So, is it all just a quick fix in hypnosis? No, of course you have to do your due diligence with your medical team and your diet and so forth. But if they don't reach the understanding of the emotional beliefs, the false truths that are at the subconscious level, you don't get the resolution. It just continues to come back. Is that starting to make some sense? We deal with something, it comes back. We deal with something, it comes back. Or it comes back in another way, or it compounds and it spreads. The subconscious mind is not your enemy. It is constantly trying to keep you safe and trying to communicate with you through what it governs. It governs your body. I thought that was fascinating and worth sharing in a segment to have you think about your personal experience. Now, this isn't just for illness. This segment was based on that. But I want you to think about the truth in that. What are you telling yourself? What are you believing? What are you carrying around that's such an automatic response? Because it's been there for decades and it's sneaky. It feels like you. Those opinions and beliefs feel like truth to you, but they need to be investigated. If you're not healthy, if you're not feeling well, if you're not earning well, if you're not happy in your relationship, if you're dissatisfied, if you're feeling sad, if you're looking at the world and feeling that collective grief. In my opinion, we're in a process of grief collectively, and no one's talking about it really. Individually, we all have to manage our conversation with ourselves. Well, our relationship to ourselves is the most precious and sacred and most important ever, before any capability of relationship with others. And collectively, we've gone through a pandemic and a lockdown. The world has changed. Everyone wants to talk like it's back to normal. It's not back to normal. Everyone's looking at inflation and recession. There is this underlying collective grief of the world has changed, and I don't know if it's ever going back. And that can become very profound negative programming. Yes, things have changed, but you can thrive in it. You can find ways that work for you. There is a path forward for you that non-linear part of you knows. So, for example, right before the solstice, I had COVID and I was sick for 2 weeks. I had to reschedule a whole week of clients, which I really don't like to do. And then there was a week of vacation I booked off. And yes, you get to rest. But the true gift was the ability to take some deep self-nurturing time. Really be able to see the path forward for myself, for my business, for what I want in 2023. How my body is feeling, what it needed. There was such a deep dive into hypnosis and into rest, into that inner landscape that we never make time for. We make a little bit of time for. And that was really, really important for me to just dive deeply into that and then come out the other side, beginning the new year, fresh, clear, rested. Looking at all of this information coming through for this segment was all part of the pondering that I went through in that 2-week process. Because our bodies are talking to us every day, but we have been so conditioned and trained to not listen to it. And as you begin to listen to that knock on the door, I want you to start to consider what your subconscious mind is trying to tell you. What your old beliefs are that you're still carrying around. And it doesn't mean those things didn't happen, but if you're carrying them around today as part of your self-identity, it is an act of self-sabotage. Because those things aren't still happening to you. You are reliving them every day, so your subconscious mind is responding like it is happening to you every day. And that will create a very strong knock. And now we've got an incongruency that needs to be reconciled because it's not the truth about you. And it was really interesting because I was just reading the other day that there is, I'm doing this from memory, so I might not get this 100% right, but there is a TikTok video that's gone viral and they're calling it lucky girl syndrome. And apparently this young woman came out, and this was on, the Today Show, so mainstream media, and I love that, talking about Neville Goddard, talking about the law of assumption. Assuming everything will work out for you starts to change what's working out for you. And so this young woman, and I loved seeing this, that she was, in her 20s, and she started talking about how she just started to think that she was lucky. Just as a gag, her and a friend talking about manifestation, talking about our creator abilities, and started to play around with things just work out for me. And then things started to work out for her. She won some money, I think, not a big amount, but I think she won some money, or her boyfriend did. She started noticing new opportunities were showing up, and she started really looking at this like there is something to this. And so she said, I'm going to say this every day now. I'm convinced that everything just works out for me. Everything always works out for me. So I want you to consider both the lighter side, start telling yourself every day, everything works out for me. Everything just always works out for me. And when you don't believe it, feel into that. Feel into how fun it is to say it and what stops you from believing it. And that's where your conversation starts. What stops you? Because of, and that's not, and isn't that like, because all those judgments that come in that feel like they're justified and vindicated. And see, that's a loop. That's a setup. That's just a never-ending conscious loop that will continue to produce the results where you are right now. Make that connection today. I need to start to change what I believe. And I need to stop talking myself out of what I want and the capabilities that I have. Because every single person on this planet is here to contribute to the path collectively that we have going forward. And with that, I will say thank you ever so much. Back to you in the studio. Have a wonderful rest of the show, and I'll see you next month. Bye for now.